puzzle, is with us here on Tiki and Tierney. Todd, what's happening?
Not a whole lot, but BT, you're close to putting the simulator out of business the way your picks have been going on Sundays compared to the computer model.
I have been kicking the crap out of the simulator. There's no other way to put it.
The problem, Todd, is that he changes his picks after he leaves here.
That's
for
true.
The simulator.
That's true.
So he's winning at the simulator and kind of, what were you last week?
I think I was 2-3-1.
That's a lie, Todd, because 2 weeks ago he was on fire.
I went 5-1. No, listen, Fuhrman knows the deal. I mean, Todd knows that when it comes to making picks, I'm usually pretty decent. But this website's awesome. And obviously, when you go to it, sportsline.com, on the right-hand side, there's like a banner. It's got FanDuel, projected daily obviously incorporates daily fantasy play. What's your brief theory on skill versus chance? Where do you sit on this here, Todd? I know you're all over it.
Yeah, you know what? This is an issue that's near and dear to me, having worked in the casino business as an odds maker behind the counter at Caesars. And you look at daily fantasy, the fact that they kind of had a unique carve-out back in 2006 in the Unlawful Internet Gaming Enforcement Act, that it was deemed more of a game of skill than chance. My take is anytime you're putting up money to try and win money in return, that by its very definition is gambling. And I think what we've seen in New York unfold was a byproduct of what took place in Nevada, where the Gaming Control Board jumped in and said, hey, we're more than happy to let FanDuel and DraftKings operate. They just need to apply for a gaming license like all of the casinos that are booking more traditional sports wagers. New York took it one step further. For me, though, guys, from a sports enthusiast standpoint, single-game wagering, daily fantasy, legalize it, regulate it, put it all out there, and allow adults to make adult-like decisions.
Yeah, at the end of the day, and that's what BT and I were talking about yesterday and a couple of days ago, and Eric Schneiderman, the DA here, is like, not on my watch. Like, shut up,
big
dude.
tough guy,
Exactly.
Schneiderman.
Don't be a tough guy. We all understand what it is. We know that it's gambling, right?
Yeah.
Just find a way to make it
Here's
acceptable.
your cut and shut up, Schneiderman.
So,
here's the piece of the puzzle.
So this is a money grab in some ways, right? I mean, we can look at it that way, and it'll eventually get worked out, right?
I definitely get the feeling that it's more political than anything else, with Schneiderman kind of coming to the forefront, looking for a reason to create some of these waves. Now, I do agree that you need to have some sort of regulations in place. When you're talking about the amount of money changing hands on an NFL Sunday between these entities, at the same time, players know what they're getting themselves in for. There's a reason that about 1% of the players are taking home 90% of these prize pools. It's no different than the stock market for folks that think they can become a day trader and beat some of the quote-unquote professionals. You have to do your best to level the playing field. Those with the best information are always going to reap the benefits.
Yeah, the problem with the stock traders is that it's actually an algorithm that you're working against, not another stock picker. Let me throw this by you, though. If everybody in this newsroom decided to play a fantasy football contest, well, let's say it's only 10 people because those are the best leagues, a 10-person fantasy football contest, we all put up $1,000 so that the winner gets $10,000 at the end. That's not regulated at all, but isn't that gambling also?
It definitely is. And when you look at some of these friendly fantasy leagues that go on across the country or NCAA tournament pools, it's all one and the same. But I think, again, it's a cash grab. And when you look at how much money is flowing through, some of the daily fantasy providers out there, everyone's trying to figure out how to get a hand in their own piece of the pie. In reality, though, you dig into some of these company financials, neither one of these main players are really cash flow positive because they're reinvesting so much more money to try and gain market share, putting into commercials and advertisements, and it's going to be fascinating to see how each of them has to adjust their business models moving forward.
Todd, I'm curious, what do you think is more enjoyable, chasing a 3.5-point spread or actually doing like a daily fantasy thing? What do you have more fun with?
You're talking to someone who's a little bit biased. He was in betting games since he was about 12. So
nice.
For me, the point spread is a little bit more in my wheelhouse than daily fantasy. I'd be lying if I said I didn't compete in some of the other leagues against my buddies and ways to keep in touch. But when it comes to making money, when it's me against the odds maker, that for me is the real intrigue and the way that I choose to attack things on a given week.
I totally agree, 1,000%. That's Todd Fuhrman, by the way, CBS Sports Line. Question for you. And I'm sure our audience, many members, don't really know the answer. So Sunday night, you go on whatever website you have, and you see all of a sudden, as the games conclude. I know there's a few games that don't have lines.
You go to Sportsline.
Well, of course, but I'm saying like we can actually put maybe like offshore account, whatever. But you definitely go to Sportsline, and you see like so and so laying 6.5 points. Maybe some spreads aren't out yet because there's an injury for a quarterback. You got to wait this out, whatever. A lot of variables. But can you explain in a somewhat succinct, understandable manner how these spreads are how they actually come to be, the actual number?
Yeah, it's as much art form and science. A lot of the best odds makers in the world will have their power rating charts that they use as a guideline to try and give them a number to start from. Then you look at some of the results, whether it's 1 week or 2 weeks. Public perception, especially in the NFL, plays such a huge role. The term we always like to refer to is recency bias. Players only remember what they saw last, so odds makers are forced to adjust. So typically you can create 1 to 2 points of value in the market. But what happens is odds makers will hang the number. They'll take a lot lower limits on Sunday, even up through Thursday, while these prices start to take shape. Injuries become clear, and that's when the professionals will really start to lay into the prices. Thursday through Sunday, you'll get some of the biggest bets in the world that'll come in an hour before kickoff because that's the only time the information is truly perfect.
So, Todd, if there's an over-under that's set at, say, 59.5 or so to any game, it's not as simple as, well, Team X averages 31 points per game, Team Y, blah, blah, blah. It's not like you just add up the math and you come. Is it in the neighborhood of that?
I wish it was that easy, BT, but the reality of it is, especially in college football where you have such differentiated styles, you'll have teams like Tulsa who are running roughly 90 plays a game and sides like North Carolina who want to run 66. You have to figure out the balancing act of exactly how pace and tempo will factor in. Yardage plays a role in the equation, and you're looking to try and figure out exactly how you can steer two-way action. The biggest myth in all of this is that books actually want 50% of the bets and money on one side, 50% on the other. In the ideal scenario, that'd be perfect. You collect a 10% juice, walk away without any risk. But you're using professionals to kind of steer money. And you look at a game like Ohio State, Illinois in college, 85% of the tickets right now coming in on Ohio State, given their national ranking, yet the number is moving towards Illinois because the larger bets on this particular game are on the Fighting
And they've
Illini.
covered like twice this year, the Buckeyes.
Yeah, Ohio State hasn't exactly been a way to line your wallet. You're looking at a
we talked about it earlier
against the spread for them. I think their last cover came against Penn State.
We felt like they were playing apathetically early on in the season. Like they're just a little bored, then they're trying to figure out the quarterback. Too many moving parts going on, but I respect what you used to do, Todd, because it's hard.
Todd, what I think is the most complex play, and I've always thought, and I don't want to get too detailed because I don't know if this applies to everybody, but I think you would appreciate this, and tell me if I'm off base. I think a teaser play personally has always been a sucker bet myself.
If you can find a way to take advantage of it, and you're on, quote unquote, the right side, and you're moving the line through key numbers. Say, for example, taking a 3-point dog, teasing it up 6 points, you get the 4, the 6, and the 7 working in your favor. It can definitely be a useful tool, but there are tons of people out there who abuse it. Last week, the biggest teaser piece that blew up in everyone's face was folks going, wait, I can take the Falcons down to a pick 'em against the 49ers. That's found money and just looking to try and match another leg. More often than not, it doesn't come out as easily as it looks on paper.
No, I hear you. I guess the second part of what I was going to say was, though, say, especially in college, you see this with these inordinately high over-unders. So if there's a number at, say, the over 69.5 or 72, and some of these Big 12 games, you get these wacky numbers, right? If somebody's inclined to tease it and they do, and they can work with 10 points on the up there, they can conceivably tease up a 72-point over-under up to 82. So when Vegas sets this stuff, they've got to be mindful of the wiggle room that teases present, correct?
There's definitely teaser protection that's put in place. Not so much for college, though, as pros. And we've run the math a number of times. College, you have way too much variance to say a teaser can give you an edge. But in NFL games where these numbers are the tightest in the business, if you can get 6 to 7 points the good in your back pocket or take advantage of some of the super teasers you mentioned, grabbing 10, that's where you can gain a little bit of an edge over the house. There's no worse scenario than when a Sunday night game or Monday night game, all 4 teaser permutations come in, that it falls 3 points either over or under, and side and total all come to fruition for bettors. Books are just kind of caught in a box, and they don't really do anything to try and protect themselves.
All right, Fuhrman, we got to go here, but because we really care about our audience, and a lot of shows say that they really care. They don't care. We truly care about people who listen to our show. So what we need you to do, we need you to give us one college winner, and we need one NFL winner. We need our audience to make some money. Give us one from each. Go ahead.
College ranks, we'll go with the Arizona Wildcats. Utah, a little bit overvalued. A fortunate winner last week against Washington, guys. I make this number closer to 1.5, 2. I'll gladly take 6 with Rich Rod's team, who's underachieved all season long.
Okay.
And in the NFL ranks, when you have the opportunity to fade the Saints, laying points on the road, especially on grass, you run, jump over men, women, and children to try and do so. Washington, too physical. They'll run the football, the healthiest they've been all season. And we will go against the Saints. Washington deserves to be the favorite.
Wow. Who'd you have last night, Jets or the Bills?
I had the Bills plus the 3 in the first half.